Atlanta City Council member Marcy Collier Overstreet, wishing you and your family happy holidays and a safe and healthy new year.
Hi, I'm Councilmember JP Matzakite, and from our family to your family, I want to wish you a happy holiday season and a wonderful new year.
Hello, this is Atlanta Council Member Cleta Winslow. This year we have all been through tough times dealing with COVID-19, but we still have many things to be thankful for. As you gather with your friends and family, remember to stay safe and to mask up. Merry Christmas.
Welcome to Stay at Home Connect. I'm Phyllis Jackson.
Georgia sees more than 6,000 COVID cases in a single day, its highest record so far. 1 in 3 hospitals are at capacity or approaching it. The Northeast Georgia Health System in Hall County has so many COVID patients, they're having to set up hospital beds in a nearby gym to handle the overflow. An FDA advisory panel votes 17-4 to recommend emergency authorization of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine for people over the age of 16. 2 of the 4 dissenting votes were over a lack of data on the vaccine's impact on 16 and 17-year-olds. Ultimately, the committee decided that the benefits outweighed the risks. Now, the CDC votes on whether to recommend the vaccine. Moderna faces the same FDA process next week, as it's looking for teenagers between the ages of 12 and 17. They want to sign them up for clinical trials. In a statement, Moderna's CEO says they hope to have enough evidence to support vaccinating this age group before school starts next year. CVS and Walgreens hire thousands of healthcare workers to help inoculate those in long-term care facilities nationwide. In an email to customers, the companies say they're looking for qualified pharmacists, nurses, and pharmacy technicians. The Atlanta City Council announces its committee chairs and appointments for 2021. If you'd like to see the list, visit our website at citycouncil.atlantagA.gov. That's citycouncil.atlantagA.gov. Well, here's a new word for your vocabulary: Shipageddon. It's the delay in your holiday gift delivery due to an increase in online shopping and shipments of coronavirus vaccines. Officials from FedEx and UPS say they're working to address the challenge, but add the best way to ensure your packages arrive on time is to ship them early.
That's a wrap. We'll see you on the next edition of Stay at Home Connect.
The Atlanta City Council approves the City of Atlanta's 2021 legislative package, a rundown of proposals and policies to convey the city's legislative and budget priorities to the Georgia General Assembly during the 2021 legislative session. Among the items, the City of Atlanta's opposition to any legislation or action seeking to change ownership, operations, and governance of Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, including any entity that would provide oversight responsibilities for governance and/or operations. The council says yes to an ordinance amending the city's Code of Ordinances to set up regulations for establishments wanting to operate outdoor dining areas on the street in the public right-of-way. Those establishments would need to apply to the City of Atlanta's Department of Transportation for a temporary permit through 2021. The council greenlights an ordinance authorizing the city's chief financial officer to make transfers within the coronavirus relief funds provided to the city from the CARES Act to cover costs incurred due to COVID-19 public health-related efforts. Legislation is filed authorizing an agreement with Agape Tennis Academy for the management, maintenance, and performance of capital improvements at the city's 5 tennis centers. For more recently approved legislation, please visit our website, citycouncil.atlantagA.gov. This has been your Atlanta City Council Legislative Minute.
First of all, I want to thank Trees Atlanta and their partners who have come out this morning in East Atlanta. We're quite near the village, and this is a very established community with a lot of old growth trees, but we need to replace trees and we need to increase our tree canopy. And so what's happening today through Plant Atlanta is an opportunity for the tree canopy to increase in this area. We're planting trees in the public right-of-way, and I'm so happy that Trees Atlanta is not only going to educate neighbors on the proper way to plant trees and to take care of trees, but they're going to come back and continue to maintain them until they're strong enough for nature and for neighborhood volunteers to take over.
Yeah, I'm out here with residents of Ponce Highland along with good folks at Trees Atlanta, planting trees here in the neighborhood, but also we're doing this all over the city, which is important to our tree canopy and continue to make our neighborhoods shady and lovely. So we're planting, I don't know, probably 50, 60 trees in a couple streets here, and it's great to see so many people out engaged in the neighborhood. I was telling the folks out here today that they're poets, because one of my favorite quotes about trees is from the poet Khalil Gibran, who said, trees are the poems that the earth writes upon the sky. And so everyone today is planting a tree that will one day be a backdrop on the sky when we look up. And so we're all a little bit doing our role to be poets today in Ponce Highland and across the city.
We were surprised by the rain, I will tell you that. So we don't have to add the water because Mother Nature provided the water for us today. It's raining and it's fine because trees love rain. So today, Council District 11, which is myself and our entire team, we're here planting 40 trees at Greenbrier Mill. And that's in partnership with Trees Atlanta. And the reason is because Atlanta is known as the city in the forest. And my district, District 11, has the second most beautiful canopy, the largest canopy in the city of Atlanta. So we want to preserve that. We want to make sure that every opportunity that we get, we are planting more trees and we're taking care of the ones that we already have. So that's what we're doing today, and the community has joined us. They registered and they joined us, and we're planting these trees over at Greenbrier Mill.
Yeah, so we've got a tree planting here today by Trees Atlanta for the city of Atlanta, and I think it's really appropriate given that we are in Atlanta, the city in a forest. So we're helping to make the forest even bigger here in Atlanta. Actually planted trees with Trees Atlanta a lot in the past. I remember planting about 15 years ago in Chastain Park, and it's fun to go by and see those trees and how they've grown in 15 years. And this is about quality of life. This is about making sure that we are green and that we remain that city in a forest.
At the end of today, we would have planted over 500 trees in the city of Atlanta, consisting of every single council district. We're here at Westview Cemetery along the M.L. King Jr. Drive corridor, and we are so happy that Trees Atlanta has chosen this spot, Westview Cemetery, to plant over 40 trees today. We're here with over 100 volunteers. Trees are vital to oxygen. We depend on them for wildlife. And we are so happy to have planted over 500 trees at the end of today, celebrating Plant Atlanta here in the city of Atlanta. I want to thank Trees Atlanta and all of their magnificent staff and volunteers for being here.
right. Good afternoon, everyone. It is 1:31 p.m., and I would like to welcome you to the final Community Development and Human Services Committee meeting of the year. My name is Matt Westmoreland. I chair this committee, and I am joined today by colleagues Antonio Brown, Carla Smith, Joy Shepard, and Amir Faroki. Ms. Pulandini, will you read the remote meeting statement, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This Community Development Human Services Committee meeting is being conducted remotely as advertised and as in accordance with OCGA 50-14-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert's Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting by dialing 877-579-6743, conference ID 831-599-1256, which was noted on the December 11, 2020 public meeting notice. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, the Council's homepage at citycouncil.atlantagA.gov, the Council's YouTube channel, or the Council's Facebook and Twitter pages via @ATL Council. All presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council Community Development Human Services Committee presentation page. The agenda was published and made available on December 11, 2020 via atlantacitygA.iqm2.com. In addition, the public was able to submit comments via voicemail at 404-330-6089 between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. the day before this meeting. All persons present on the remote council meeting conference bridge are requested to mute your phones and speakers. Additionally, speakers must be acknowledged by the presiding officer prior to speaking. Each council member is requested to open your Outlook email and minimize the screen. Amendments, substitutes, and informational documents have been distributed to the committee members beforehand. Thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
Thank you very much. Also wanted to note that we are joined by Council President Felicia Moore. Colleagues, we are going to follow the agenda as it is printed. The one slight variation is that when we get to our regular agenda, we're going to take item 15 first and then proceed with items 8, 9, and beyond. Ms. Pulandini, do we need to vote to amend the agenda if we're just reordering things within a particular section?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would suggest voting to amend the agenda.
I will make a motion to amend the agenda with that one change. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown. Please open that vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is amended. I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Our agenda is adopted as amended. I will now make a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Got a motion by Westmoreland, a second by Bond, who we have now been joined by.
Thank you.
One moment, please. The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes are approved. Mr. Massenberg, would you please play our 38 seconds of public comment?
Greetings to you, council members, staff, and special greetings to you, citizens of Atlanta, watching and listening to your government in action and taking note about how comments from the public are being treated by our council members. Ben Howard, Senior Advocate, Public Policy Analyst. On the average, about 1% of eligible voters, senior citizens, and others attending public VUR meetings.
All right. And Mr. Howard deserves a perfect attendance award for, I think, leaving public comment at every meeting this year. Next up, we are going to move on to our communications. Ms. Polendini.
Yes, item number 1, 20-C-0142. A communication from Council Members Carlos Smith, District 1, Amira Froki, District 2, Antonio Brown, District 3, Cleta Winslow, District 4, and Michael Julian Bond, Post 1 at Large, appointing Mr. Nicholas McKinney to serve as a member of the Atlanta Commission on Veterans Affairs. This appointment is for a term of 2 years.
Mr. McKinney, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Appreciate you joining us today. If you just take a couple moments and introduce yourself to the committee and talk a little bit about why you'd like to serve on this commission.
No problem. I just want to first say thank you to the committee, the council members, and a special thank you to Councilwoman Winslow. My name, of course, is Nick McKinney. I've served in the military for 7 years. I'm a former police officer as well as a former district attorney, assistant district attorney. I want to serve on this commission because of my time in the military. I was taught to serve, and going forward, I've been serving my community even after the military, and the success from my time being in the military helped me be a successful person in life and beyond. And I would like to continue that and promote and be a part of a group of people that's promoting, helping our local veterans.
Well, thank you very much for your service to our country and your willingness to serve the city. If there are no questions or comments, I will make a motion to recommend.
Second, Brown.
Got a motion by Westmoreland.
The vote is open.
Mr. Bond, how would you like to vote?
Aye.
Thank you.
The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item number 2, 20-C-0143, a communication from Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms appointing Ms. Deborah Lonan to serve as commissioner of the Department of Grants and Community Development for the City of Atlanta.
Yes, ma'am. Are you here?
I am. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. If you would take a couple minutes to introduce yourself to the committee and talk a little about why you would like to take this role with us here at the city.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon to Council President Moore, to you, Council Chairman Westmoreland, and to the council members. I am Deborah Lonan, and I am honored to join the City of Atlanta staff and to serve as Commissioner for the Department of Grants and Community Development. Prior to joining the department, I served as Assistant County Manager for the Unified Government of Athens, Clarke County, and before that, I served as the Director of the county's Housing and Community Development Department. I'm also a licensed attorney. I'm proud to serve in this new role because of my personal commitment to the City of Atlanta and to connecting its residents to resources, especially those residents that are the most vulnerable. Of course, the department has much work to do, but I'm committed to carrying out the mayor's vision and to meeting our community's needs. I look forward to working with the council, and I thank you for this opportunity. I do respectfully accept the mayor's appointment to serve as Commissioner of the Department of Grants and Community Development.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lana, and I appreciated the opportunity to have a conversation with you yesterday, and I'm very much looking forward to your leadership. You are well aware of the challenges that we have faced in this area recently and also longstanding. And so I appreciate your willingness to come aboard and look forward to working very closely with you as this committee will do in the year ahead. Colleagues, are there any questions or comments? All right, I will make a motion to adopt. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Got a motion by Westmoreland and a second by Brown.
The vote is open.
Mr. Bond, how would you like to vote? Oh, you have voted. Yes, you did. Yep, thanks.
Will everyone please vote?
Mr. Faroki said he may have to step away from his computer a little bit here at the beginning of the meeting, so why don't we go ahead and close that vote?
Okay, one moment, please. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Thank you very much, future commissioner. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item number 3, 20-C-0144, a communication from Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms appointing Ms. Rosalind Elliott to serve as a member of the Atlanta Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. As a resident commissioner, this appointment is for a term of 1 year, and there's an amendment in your packet to add the public version of Ms. Elliott's bio.
I will make a motion to amend the communication. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Got a motion by Westmoreland and a second by Brown.
The vote is open.
Mr. Bond? There we go. Why don't we go ahead and do the same thing with this item?
Thank you. The vote is closed.
All right. 5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is amended. Miss Elliott, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Thank you very much for coming. If you would take a moment to introduce yourself to the committee.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosalind R. Elliott. I am humbled and honored to be considered for the Resident Board of Commissioners seat for Atlanta Housing. I am thankful to Mr. James Allen for his representation on the Board of Commissioners as a resident who made the residents of Atlanta Housing proud. He will be truly missed. Being a leader is a part of my DNA. In school, in my church, in my community, being a leader is second nature. As a resident of one of the best senior high-rise buildings in Atlanta, I presently serve as president of the Resident Association for Peachtree Road Senior Tower. My goal has always been to keep all of the residents moving. I'm a believer in if you don't use it, you lose it. I serve my Atlanta community in numerous ways as well. As a former member owner of Fairburn Townhouses, a co-op community in Southwest Atlanta, I was elected to the Board of Directors in 2011 and presently serve as Vice President. I am honored to be considered for this board position, and I am thankful for another opportunity to serve the mission and goals of the Atlanta Housing. And I would love to be a part of the development of quality, decent, and affordable living for this city where I was born, raised, and educated. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, ma'am. I see here in your biography that you also served as an employee of Atlanta Housing, so appreciate your service in the past and in the year ahead. If there are no questions or comments, I will make a motion to approve.
Second. Second, Brown.
Got a motion by Westmoreland, a second by Bond. Please open that vote. And thank you, Ms. Elliott, for your comments about Mr. Allen. I know that all of us knew him very well and appreciated his leadership and miss him too.
The vote is open.
Let's go ahead and close. Yep, there we go. 5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Thank you, Ms. Elliott.
Thank you.
Next up.
Item number 4, 20-C-0145, a communication from Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms appointing Ms. Sheila Harris to serve as a member of the Atlanta Housing Authority Board of Commissioners as a resident commissioner. This appointment is for a term of 1 year, and there's an amendment for this item to attach the public version of Ms. Harris's bio. Mr. Chair?
Yep, I was muted. Sorry about that. I'll make a motion to amend. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is amended. Ms. Harris, are you there?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Jeffrey Montford will be assisting Ms. Harris on the call today.
Okay.
Yes, she's here.
Awesome. Mr. Montford, good to have you. Thank you for joining us. If you could just take a moment to introduce Ms. Harris to us, that would be great.
Yes, Ms. Sheila Harris was Cheshire Bridge High Rises Association president for 2 terms. She served the community well, assisting residents with everyday needs. She has been the She's served on the board here for quite some years. So it is a great pleasure with me working with her. I've been her coordinator now for 10 years at the Senior High Rise. It's been a great pleasure working with her cooperation to help the residents continue to move on, being self-sufficient throughout the community. And she's definitely will be a great asset to you guys as well.
Thank you very much. If there are no questions or comments, I will make a motion to approve.
Second, Brown.
A motion by Westmoreland and a second by Brown.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. Thank you very much. Next up, colleagues, on our agenda are our 2 end-of-year presentations. The first will be from Invest Atlanta and the second from WorkSource Atlanta. Dr. Clemente, are you there?
Hey, there I am. How are you? Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for unmuting me. I appreciate that. So thank you very much for Chair, and thank you to all the council members for your continual support and of all the great things that we're doing here at Invest Atlanta. Again, it's an honor and privilege to be the president CEO and lead one of the most professional stellar teams I've ever had the honor to work with. Next slide. So just want to provide you with an overview of where we are as Invest Atlanta. Please note that all of these numbers that I'll be speaking to are reported through the end of November. We'll be closing out December's numbers and then providing a final update to this committee. But as of now, we've been able to play a role, influence, adjust, and really stimulate over 3,200 jobs, which represent about $572 million in capital investments. An important number for us this year for 2020 has been how many jobs we've been able to retain, and that's through working with our businesses of 906 jobs. We've been able to approve 72 loans. This has really been the highest that we've done in our history, and I want to specifically thank this council and Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms for her leadership on providing Invest Atlanta with loan funds. You were the first ones out the door nationally when this crisis hit, that provided loans to small businesses that have now since then turned into grants. Every single loan has been turned into a grant as a result of CARES. But this has really been exciting for us to see the process and the impact that we've had. And so we'll be able to report that probably beginning of next quarter. In terms of our housing, I want to really shout out the team. We've been able to hit over 2,525 multifamily units have been closed, of which 88% have been affordable. That's 2,221. And so excited about what we've done and really emphasizing the need for us to continue on the path forward. And the need is even been exacerbated as a result of the current situation. And then we've been able to have down payment assistance of our home buyers of $38. Now, we were hoping to have a little more than that, but as you can imagine, not only are we in a tight market, but because of COVID, many people did not want to have people in their homes. And so we've seen not only a tightening of the market, but the COVID environment has really impacted home sales. Next slide. So if we just look at our results, at our economic development results by sector, this gives you a good sense of what sectors we have been playing or been able to influence the most. And so technology has really, and IT has really led the Atlanta market. And I will emphasize, I've had an opportunity to talk to Tom, who's an economist at the Metro Atlanta Chamber, and really presented great information and presented at our Economic Development Committee. And this diversification is what really is allowing Atlanta as a region to bounce back as a result of COVID much faster than we had planned and trending higher than some of our other cities, competitor cities. So it's good that we have this diversification to really help us in these difficult times. Let me then also, next slide, I'm very excited and wanted to take this opportunity for you to hear from Bonica Wilson. She's our Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer here at Invest Atlanta. She's just recently joined us, and I've asked her, I sent a communication to each of you, but I just wanted to present her here because I think moving forward for Invest Atlanta, the economic development strategy that this council and the mayor were so imperative on to allowing us to direct us about the need for economic mobility and inclusion is at the core of what we do. And so I just wanted to introduce Bonica and let her briefly talk to you about, or to mention, I should say, some of the things and areas of her focus. So Bonica, welcome, and could you please fill in the city council? And hopefully we can unmute Bonica Wilson.
One moment, please.
What I can do, Chair, is continue the PowerPoint to be respectful of your time. And Bonica, when you get on, you just interrupt me. Would that be okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. So I will skip the Bonica slide and the following slide, which is what she is focused on. So we'll get back to slide number 5, and we'll go to slide number 6. So what we saw in the Economic Mobility Recovery and Resiliency Plan was really this focus on the South Side. So I wanted to provide an update also on our South Side efforts. Next slide, which is slide 7. Here what we see is that the clear divide between the south and the north of Atlanta. This is a very familiar map that you've seen, and I know I've had the opportunity to walk through this map with Councilmember Shepard and several council members. And this is why we really identified the 4 pathways, mechanisms to economic mobility. What we recognize is when all 4 of these pathways are operating effectively, residents are going to be more resilient to economic downturns, build intergenerational wealth, and achieve the economic mobility that we all want to see. So what we've done is we've developed this map, and we've talked about the map already, and it really setting these indicators. But the reason I mention this is because this is how we are going to be able to measure our success in the South Side. Next slide. Now, we're not waiting. We've already
Wilson, are you unmuted now? I think you might be here. Just kidding. Sorry about that, Doctor.
No worries. So I'm on slide number 8. Here, what we see is the programs that we've already started to focus in on the South Side. From our Resurgence Fund, this is the very first time the Invest Atlanta really, even in our scoring, if you lived in one of our disinvested neighborhoods, which is related right back to the map that I previously talked about, you got an extra score. And it worked. when we looked at the numbers on that first round, many of the businesses in these disinvested neighborhoods were in round one. We have now since opened up to a round 2 and a round 3. But in either case, what we saw was it actually did work. And so we were excited about that. The other 2 programs are the Create ATL and the Strength and Beauty that we're continuing to focus in on the South Side. So again, next slide. Our South Side residents are going to be key. We know that they're getting impacted, as is the entire city, but them is feeling it a lot harder as a result of this pandemic. So we will continue to focus and update this council on our efforts. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Fine, who's going to provide the TAD quarterly update, which is slide 10. Jennifer.
Yeah, I don't think I'm unmuted yet.
No, you are. We can hear you.
Oh, excellent. Well, hello. Good afternoon, committee and council members. I'm Jennifer Fine with Invest Atlanta, giving you the 4th quarter TAD update. Next slide, please. So as I do each quarter, I want to show all 10 of the city's tax allocation districts, and that Invest Atlanta is still committed to not funding any new projects in either Atlantic Station or the Princeton Lakes TAD. All proceeds are pledged to debt obligations there as we've identified in the map. Next slide, please. So I'm very proud of this slide and just want to point out a few reasons why that is. Number one really is the breadth of project types, both big and small, the range of uses, the location of projects throughout the city of Atlanta. So through November 2020, as Eloisa mentioned in the beginning, this will be as of the end of November 2020. In an unprecedented year, obviously, we've awarded funding to 28 projects or programs in 8 separate TADs. So all told, through this current year, $22.6 million will be allocated to spur over $134 million in private development. Projects focus on affordable housing, workforce development, new affordable and market rate commercial spaces, and small business improvements throughout the city. Next slide, please. So this is a snapshot as of today, identifying all awarded projects and programs by month for 2020. So as part of our reporting requirements and pledge to you, we've identified the TAD award, total cost, programming detail, and location. And I'll be providing this quarterly as a quick reference and a standalone document for you that will hopefully be useful when people ask you questions or you just want to see something very quickly. If there is something, I guess, on that table that you would like to see that's not there, please also let me know. So the next few slides provide visuals for 8 separate projects and programs that show, again, this variety of initiatives receiving TAD funding assistance. Next slide, please. So I've shared these 2 projects last quarter and just wanted to start today with them as well since they have advanced. On top is a series of 3 major renovations in English Avenue with the developer called Oaks ATL. And it represents the preservation of 31 deeply affordable rental units, which, you know, in the grand scheme of things might not sound like a lot, but these smaller projects are challenging and difficult, take a lot of time, involve many, many people, and are really a joy to see come to fruition. And we're thrilled with these projects. They're leased to neighborhood families and families of related Peace Prep Academy students. At least half of these 31 units will be restricted at no more than 50% of area median income, but the owner is committed and has shown, as is evidenced in the leasing currently, for affordability at that level for all of the units. So again, we're thrilled with these projects and that partnership and hope to do additional projects like this. At the bottom is the new East Gate to allow for much needed and easy access to historic Oakland Cemetery at Boulevard and Memorial Drive. really love this project, and this is just the first part of a much larger renovation of the eastern side of historic Oakland Cemetery, and we're very happy to be a partner in that project. Next slide, please. So on top, this is Project Community Connections, a project called Thrive Sweet Auburn on Decatur Street. And when complete, it will include 117 affordable rental units and about 16,000 square feet of new office space. It received $715,000 Eastside TAD grant to assist with the completion of about 11,000 square feet of flexible office and retail space that's focused or will be focused on housing, economic development, and nonprofit tenants. And below is a small business improvement grant project to reactivate a vacant 4,300 square foot commercial property on Pryor Street in the Stadium Neighborhoods TAD. This project received a $20,000 grant for the $200,000 project. And you'll see in the next couple slides that we've really ramped up our small business improvement grant activity, which we were hoping to be the case as that program kind of has legs. We launched it last year, and now through word of mouth, each time we award new projects, and when projects are complete, neighbors and other businesses want to find out how they can take advantage of this program. So we love to talk to businesses about it, and we're happy to see the progress. Next slide, please. On top is another, again, small business improvement grant in the Hollowell ML King TAD. It also received a $20,000 grant to make exterior and security improvements to 13,000 square foot commercial property. The family built this in 2000 and are committed to continuing to be good owners and neighbors. And I think another interesting point to this project that I really like to see is that this project is close to some other really important projects, one of which is called the Remington, which is immediately north. It's a senior rental project that we provided some TAD assistance to. And then this is also next to the old Atlanta Housing Bowen Homes property, which will be a hugely catalytic redevelopment. So again, kind of a synergy of investment. And then on the bottom, those images show another business improvement grant in the same TAD, the Hollowell ML King TAD. The owner of this property have owned it for more than 50 years and continue to operate multiple businesses on site. They were awarded a $20,000 grant for exterior improvements as well. Next slide, please. And then a couple of unique recently awarded projects that I wanted to point out. So on top, in October, our board approved a new single-family mortgage down payment assistance fund for home buyers in Northwest Atlanta. So $1 million from the Perry Bolton TAD will be committed to create the program that will provide up to $20,000 to an income qualified home buyer who's purchasing an eligible home within the Perry Bolton TAD. So the target is really home buyers at 80% of area median income or below, which is a much lower kind of threshold. Typically, when we're talking about affordable single family, we're talking about 100 to 120% of area median income. So with this program, we're really trying to drive that affordability down even more. So we're very excited about this program. And then the last project I wanted to call out, also in the Perry Bolton TAD, and it's a partnership with the Department of City Planning to provide a $50,500 match grant to a recently awarded $250,000 grant that the department received to study and address the Northwest Freight Corridor. The study will look at interactions between freight movement and existing and anticipated land uses to reduce conflict and create a better, more accessible environment. This Northwest area of Atlanta has seen a lot of changes in the land use. So this is a really important and timely planning initiative with the Department of City Planning. Next slide, please. So this shows tax year 2019 collections as of April 2020. Should have access to updated numbers soon. So these numbers fluctuate as property tax payments are collected throughout the year, but really kind of give a good visual representation of the size and scale of the TADs, and that there's great difference between all of them. Some of them have much lower collections, and that really drives our ability to create programs and fund projects. And we're just trying to leverage all that we can in each TAD to provide as much value to satisfy the need that is out there. And I think that is my last slide. So I'm happy to answer questions, or we can continue with the next portion of the presentation. I will let Eloisa chime in on that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and finish up, and then we'll see if there are any questions at the end.
Great, thank you.
Dr. Clemente, are you there?
I am, and speaking on mute. I apologize. Thank you, sir, for calling that out. I apologize. So, yes, I'll just jump real quick to federal opportunity zones and let you just provide a quick update. Invest Atlanta continues to work on federal opportunity zones. In fact, earlier today, I participated in a HUD panel regarding opportunity zones and really noticed nationally all the different programs, and really felt good and that we are aligned in how our effort and our strategy. I will tell you that I'm excited that we were able to close this year. We suspect Briarwood Medical Office Building. This is in one of our federal opportunity zones. We were able to come in and support it with several other of our projects. And what's exciting is not only is it going to be an opportunity zone project, but it's really addressing the goals of our economic mobility strategy, because what it will be providing is a medical office building in a medical desert. This has been an area we have been focused on. Both the council member knows and the mayor have pushed us on how can we try to stimulate access to a medical office building in the South Side. And so we're excited about this opportunity and this project, and we will continue to focus and leverage as much as we can in terms of opportunity zones. And that's it, sir. Thank you. And we'll take any questions.
Ms. Wilson, any luck? Did we finally get you online?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Yes, we can. It'd be great if you just take a couple moments and introduce yourself to the committee.
Sure. I'm Benika Wilson, and I am extremely proud to be a part of the Invest Atlanta team, which one I'm convinced is the hardest working team in the business. I bring several years of leading diversity strategy, stakeholder engagement, and I've also managed a commercial lending team. I do believe my diverse experience will serve me well in this role, as I will focus on strategy, equity, and optimization of people, programs, and processes. I will execute the plan and achieve goals by intentionally looking at company, community, and programs.
Thank you, Benika, and again, welcome.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Mr. Brown, why don't you kick us off?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Dr. Clementich and Ms. Fine, thank you for your presentations, and also welcome to the newest member of Invest Atlanta. I do believe that it's an extraordinary group that can do a lot of great things within the city. I want to start with my first question, Dr. Clementich. Do we have a listing of all the land Invest Atlanta owns? Do we have a listing of that readily available?
Yes.
Okay.
We do.
Do we have a plan of action around the development of that land, or what we're anticipating on doing with the land? Because I know some of the properties we own are dilapidated properties, and I know I have some in my community. I'm sure council members have some in theirs. Do we have a plan of action in place for the development of those properties and or land?
Yes, most of the property parcels have, all of them have broken out into what our action plan is on each of them. Some, it is going to require us to do some community engagement prior to, but it really depends on the parcels. But yes, there is a framework of what the next action steps will be.
Okay, and where are we timeline-wise in that being moved forward? I understand that there has to be some community engagement involved, but is there like a timeline behind your plan of action for developing the land that Invest Atlanta owns?
Yes, there is a timeline. I will have to tell you that our timeline is kind of, on some of our projects, it's been impacted because of the uncertainty of COVID. So we kept moving the date, and now we just kind of on hold until we can get clarity on when we're back to some sort of normal. And let me just give you an example. For example, there's one parcel that we want to do an RFP on, but for us to issue the RFP, usually people want to go see the location. And so that means we have to open it up, and that means someone has to be there, and then someone has to coordinate, and we can't do that yet in a safe manner. And so we're just trying to figure out how we can move this in a timely manner.
Okay, do me a favor. Can you send to the members of this body committee the timeline, the action plan, the list of the parcels, and if you have any images of the parcels and land and stuff, that would be great to have that included. If you can get that to this body, I think that would be incredibly helpful. Chairman Westmoreland and I are working on a project, and I think to have a better understanding of where you all are could be helpful in the work that we're preparing to do. If you could do that, that would be awesome. My next question, I wanted to get an update from you, Jennifer. Where are we on the English Avenue, Vine City, I guess more specifically the Donnelly-Hollowell Corridor, new resurgent grant loan program that we developed? Where are we with that being approved either by the board or I'm not sure what stage it is in now before we can launch and move that forward? Because I've been speaking with a lot of the commercial property owners along the corridor, and collectively they've been waiting on this and wondering where we are since we've last presented to the MPU.
So thank you, Councilmember. Jennifer, I'll jump in if you don't mind. Sure. If that's okay. Okay. What we're going to do, Councilmember, is beginning in January, we thought it'd be easiest. We're going to incorporate this, that program details in our current TAD guidelines. And so by January, probably by end January, we could have something up so that individuals could apply. And we're just expanding our current TAD guidelines so that it incorporates everything about that program.
Okay, so explain that to me, because we didn't discuss, that wasn't what was initially discussed as, what made you go in that direction as opposed to running something separate specifically around this corridor? And I think the reason why we did it specifically around the corridor and in the English Avenue, Vine City area was because, I mean, that's one of the last corridors that's predominantly African American owned. So we wanted to ensure that they had the access, and you know, in a lot of ways, the ability to have access to it without others coming in and seeking to utilize the funds for other purposes.
Yeah, I think what we wanted to do. Okay, Jennifer, did I?
Yes. Yeah, and I can speak to that. I'm more than happy to.
Okay.
Okay, Jennifer. Yeah. So Councilmember, you're exactly right. When we first started talking about this, we were talking specifically about need on the Hollowell corridor, which there definitely is need, and there are lots of unique properties on that corridor. Then in having more conversations about that program and our current Resurgence Fund program that's available throughout the TAD, an additional need that we felt was there and that we'd heard from the community as well, that really made us think about expanding our current program. And the beauty of that, what it really does is it gives property owners in English Avenue and Vine City kind of two different options, if you will. So we have a resurgence fund for the entire West Side TAD that currently exists, and it's available to folks, commercial property owners on Hollowell and all of the commercial corridors in the West Side TAD. What we're proposing to do with the revisions is basically saying for commercial properties in English Avenue and Vine City, a relatively small area, we're going to have this modified grant that will allow for this greater gap financing that we've talked about in length and why that's really needed. It's this greater gap. So heard you loud and clear there, greater gap, and also this loan component. And we already have a pre-development loan that we approved earlier in the year, again, for the West Side TAD. But we think it will work really well for some properties in the West Side TAD, but maybe not so well for smaller properties in English Avenue and Vine City. And so we're proposing to revise those loan guidelines a little bit to allow a greater entry point for commercial properties in English Avenue and Vine City to easier access those loans. You don't have to have as large of a property or as large of a building. So we think it's a win-win, and it will satisfy your original, desire, which is to kind of modify the guidelines for greater accessibility on Hollowell, but it will allow other commercial properties and property owners within English Avenue and Vine City, and only those two neighborhoods, kind of greater flexibility with those two tools. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jennifer. And just one point of clarity. The guidelines we originally discussed as far as the ratio with the grant loan opportunity, are we still at the same amounts we discussed, or is there potential for that to change now that it's rolling up under this?
No, I think we're still at those same amounts. I will pull up kind of the draft guidelines, and I can get back with you individually, but I'm fairly certain they're the same as we last spoke.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that, Jennifer and Dr. Klementich. I just have two more questions, and I'll yield back to my colleague. Dr. Klementich, do you, and again, my computer's been messing up, so I don't know if this was a part of your presentation or not, but out of all the affordable housing Invest Atlanta supported this year, do you have like a breakdown of what districts that affordable housing has fallen into?
Yes, we do, and we will provide we will provide that to you. We always do. We'll break it down by district, and we'll even put it on a map so it's easy to see.
Oh, that would be amazing. And then my last question, which I know you're probably tired of me at this point, beating the drum about. Where are we in the conversation with the administration on startup small business grant opportunities? I've expressed before that startups really didn't have an opportunity to take advantage of the COVID funding. And, in all due respect, they are some of the most vulnerable in this city, utilizing some of their last monies to start up this business, and then the pandemic hit. So where are we? Because I know I mentioned that before to Chief Operating Officer John Keene, and I also know that we kind of had like a brief conversation. I just want to know, where are we with that? And just so the public will know, because I've been constantly getting emails and calls about it.
Yeah, I have to tell you, the administration, the team has been dedicated to trying to look for funds. We've actually applied for additional funds to different areas or different groups. So one of them is the EDA grant. We received that grant. That one, actually the EDA is a loan. It's not a grant. And that one will allow us to give to startups the loan and the great loan terms. I know that's not ideal, council member, for startups, but I will tell you that we are prepared to address several needs that have come up to us. Not only, I would say, startups and startup businesses in particular. I've seen the same need in our theater groups and our artist groups, and some of our mid-sized nonprofits. These are groups that we've noticed are, to your point, really suffering and really need support. So we here, and I have a group of national colleagues that we get on the phone with. We hear that they potentially may be a CARES Act 2. And so we're beginning now to frame what the CARES Act 2, and those are the 3 groups that we want to put at a high priority. As again, we'll have to wait to see what the guidelines are, but as a high priority for us to be able to minister. But those are the things that we are definitely trying to find funding for.
Hey, thank you for that, Dr. Clementich, and I know you're working through to figure this out. Just out of curiosity, have you done an analysis on businesses in the city of Atlanta that will fall into the guidelines of a startup business, meaning that would not have a qualified under the original terms set forth by you all for the CARES Act funding? Like, have you figured out which businesses were actually startup businesses that were starting up in that time frame? And then the second part of that question is, do you have an idea of how much money you think would be good to start with in addressing some of these opportunities you just mentioned?
I haven't run the exact numbers. I know, we're starting to deep dive into that now. We know that there were 12 artist facilities like Theater Place locations that have been impacted. We're going to run the numbers on the small business. I haven't. I will tell you, though, I want to make sure the startup, the only requirement was that you be in business really a year. So again, if you were less than a year, that was those that were startups, and those were tougher. But and there we were trying to think about how do we get to some of our legacy businesses that have been in Atlanta and been contributing to Atlanta. We wanted to make sure that we were there for them. And we need to be there for everyone. Everyone is so important. The question is if the dollars are just not as wide as we would want them to be. But that's part of the process that we'll have together when we make the application and the pitch. So I don't have an exact number for you today, sir, but that is something we're working on.
Okay. Do you know when you can get that to council for us to, at least this committee, to look at? Because I think that's important, because whether we get funding from a second CARES Act or not, I think as a city, we have an obligation to these businesses, to these nonprofits, to the arts and entertainment industry that's struggling right now. We have an obligation. Their burden is no less than anyone else's in the city, and I know you know that. So that means that we as a council need to do our part to see where we can move things around to get that needed funding to Invest Atlanta to facilitate these opportunities. So do you know when you will have that, you could have that compiled and submitted to us?
I can have that at the beginning of January for sure, because I know there's a big need. I will tell you, we're got our heads down and focused on getting our remaining money out for the resurgence, but I will begin to work on that so I can have something by the time this council gets back in January.
Awesome. I appreciate you so much. Mr. Chair, thank you so much, and I'll yield back to my colleague.
Thank you. Your questions about housing affordability across the city reminded me that as I was reviewing the documents for this upcoming Invest Atlanta board meeting on Thursday, we will be being asked to approve financing for 4 new projects that have an additional 700 units of affordable housing, and 82% of those units will be for residents making 60% or less of AMI. So continued kudos to you and your team, Dr. Clementich, for all the work that you're doing on this front, and excited about what 2021 will hold.
Thank you, sir. And if I can just call out, the work of Dawn, and Dawn's leadership in Allen is amazing. And so I want to just recognize that as well. So thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much. Next up, we will hear from Katarina Taylor. our Executive Director at WorkSource Atlanta. You there?
Yep. Afternoon, Chairman Westmoreland and all the CHS committee members. This is Katarina Taylor with WorkSource Atlanta, and I'll be providing today just a mid-year review of our program. And I'll go ahead and start. I wanted to first start off with our National Emergency Grant. You all know that we received this grant in summer of this year, and it was about $550,000. We're still having additional conversations with TCSG about additional funding coming to that grant. But right now, I want to give you just an update of what's been happening with that grant. Currently, we've hosted 8 virtual meetings from October through this month, informational sessions about the positions that we're hiring under the work experience program for the National Emergency Grant. We've had 41 people attend, and we've had 3 approved participants. So I know that number sounds low, but we'll continue to do outreach, share the information, and hopefully get more people to attend some of these programs. These are jobs that are available currently, so we want to get as many people in there in those positions as possible. We partner with many nonprofits around the city to be able to work as a host site for these positions. So just FYI as well, these are COVID-19 positions, response positions. So COVID-19 call centers, contact tracers, and other PPE asset management specialists. So positions that have to do with COVID-19, because the grant is specific to that. Again, we've done a lot of targeted outreach, and we'll continue to do that, but wanted to make sure that you all were aware of where we are now. We'll have our first participant get their first paycheck on this Friday. So, and they'll be in their work experience for 16 weeks. We've shared this flyer with you all, so we'll continue to share that, and we would ask that you all, city council members, continue to share with your constituents so that we can continue to spread the information throughout the city of Atlanta. We could go to the next slide. WorkSource Atlanta is still not receiving people in our building, and so our services remain virtual, but I just wanted to give just an update on some of the services where we've had to pivot. So we're seeing more, obviously, people calling over the phone to get access to our services. We've had some challenges in fielding those calls, and so we've addressed those challenges, ensuring that people are getting calls back within 72 hours. Our goal is to increase that response time to at least 36 to 48 hours, but because there are an abundance of calls coming through the system, we just need to make sure that everyone's getting a call back. Next slide, please. We've got highlights from our One-Stop Operations Center. And this summer, we participated in the mayor's LGBTQ Opportunity Week. We had about 30 participants attend our resume workshop. 27 participated in interviewing skills seminars. So it was a really successful program. And so we were happy to participate in that and have our one-stop operators participate in that. We've also been doing a lot of work with just joining other organizations, being a part of their conversations, speaking more about the services that WorkSource can offer. Obviously, we want to make sure that people know that we're here and we're available. So we've been doing a lot of partnering, and we appreciate Urban League and some of the other organizations we've been able to work with. We certainly want to make sure that we say thank you to the Georgia Department of Labor. We've been working with them, as many of our participants who are coming or who are calling or utilizing our services online also need access to the Georgia Department of Labor because they're so far behind. So we have someone in our agency that that is supporting those participants who are needing to file for unemployment but are not getting the quick responses that we would normally get outside of this pandemic. So really appreciate their partnership. If we could go to the next slide. So we are seeing a lot of people call the agency and utilize our services, but mainly for orientation, getting to know what our services are, making sure they can have access to our services, getting approved, and becoming eligible. And then, of course, again, I want to mention the Georgia Department of Labor. We've had at least 101 participants leverage the services of the Georgia Department of Labor. So getting more expedited access through our Georgia Department of Labor representative, as opposed to going directly through the Georgia Department of Labor. Again, they've been behind on getting their claims out. So it's been very helpful to our participants to have that partnership with the Georgia Department of Labor. If you could go to the next slide. I wanted to provide an update on our youth services. Since July, since our year started, we have enrolled 114 total youth. 25 of our youth have been enrolled in our GED program, which is really good. You all know that we tape test our participants when they come in to understand where they are, what their reading level is, what their math level is. And oftentimes, if they're not on a particular reading level, we try to provide some other support. And so GED services are support that we try to provide in order to get them prepared to go into the workforce or meet our tape testing to be able to enroll into a program. We've completed 50 workshops. We had 7 youth employed since July 1. We've got 14 success stories, and I'll share one of those success stories with you today. We've got 6 youth that have completed our work experience programs, and 7 have obtained employment from their work experience program. So we're really happy about that oftentimes our work experience is not necessarily for participants to gain employment from the work site that they're working at under their work experience, but it's to gain experience. And so for our work site participants to offer the work experience participants jobs, is really the results that, we like and we're looking for. So we're very happy about this employment for our youth. If we could go to the next slide. Just wanted to share an update on some of the partners that we've been, reaching out to, engaging with. I think we had a kind of a slow start to the end of the last quarter with regards to our youth. And so we really want to be a little bit more proactive in working with Equus, formerly ResCare, and our one-stop operators to ensure that, one, our youth dollars are being spent down, but we're really engaging our youth. We're getting the services to the youth of the city of Atlanta that they need and that's available to them. So we've been reaching out to all of our partners, some new, and some just continuing to cultivate those relationships. And these are some of our new partnerships. Next slide. So this is just a quick snapshot of the first and second quarter report. It just shows you, where we're seeing the most activity. So again, in November and December, we have a high enrollment of our GED program. We've seen a lot of workshop participants increase, which is great because it really allows them to understand what are we doing, what are the services that Workforce offers. So that's great. And you'll notice that in July, our enrollment were up. Our work experiences were up because that was the beginning of getting our youth dollars this summer. So we're working really hard with our youth participants, and my team is working with APS, working with other organizations in the city, Parks and Recs. They've been very helpful. So I want to make sure that my team knows how appreciative I am of them as well, ensuring that our youth in the city are getting access to these services. If you could go to the next slide. So this next slide is about a success story that I really wanted to share with you all. Malik Major actually came to WorkSource through our homeless grant. And we placed Malik in a work experience through our homeless grant. Now, Malik is one of our participants that identifies as LGBTQ. And he was uncomfortable working at one of his work sites that we placed him on. He felt like, he was getting teased and almost bullied. And so he was uncomfortable, and he came to us and said, what can I do? He shows up to work on time. Malik is very professional. He's had some, a lot of challenges in his life, and he was sleeping on the streets. And so we wanted to make sure that he had a comfortable environment to get trained in and be at a work experience site where he could feel safe, but he could still learn. So we were able to, after the homeless grant was complete, we were able to enroll Malik into our youth work experience program that put him with more people his age. He is almost done with his work readiness program, and then we'll enroll into a new certification program where he'll be certified in Microsoft Office. He is now employed, so he does have a job where he's able to pay his bills, and he has stable housing. And when Malik came to us early this summer, that was not the case. And so we're really pleased and happy for Malik. He's just a good kid. And he's older than 18, so I hate to call him a kid, but he really is a good kid. He was on top of all of, the responsibilities that we gave him to complete. And he really leveraged our services because he really wanted to do something different with his life. And so we're very pleased. And hopefully, when COVID is over, we'll be able to bring Malik to you all and just have him share his story with you and his story of WorkSource. If we could go to the next slide. So what we've been focusing around for adult and dislocated worker services are just our measurable skills gains, our individualized career plans, our retention services, as well as placements for customers who have completed trainings. Since COVID-19, a lot of our adults and dislocated workers have engaged us for rental and utility assistance. And we're continuing to see a high volume of calls of unemployment. So again, having the Georgia Department of Labor within our one-stop operations center is very helpful because they get personalized access to a representative from DOL to help them go through their unemployment claims process. If you can go to the next slide. So since July, we've had 99 active adult participants to complete or enroll in an individual training account, covering about $582,000 in training costs. We've had probably another tens of thousands of dollars in supportive services. Many of the trainings that we're providing through these participants are reflective of the growing and stable industries during the pandemic. So if you'll notice on this slide, you'll see iCode Academy, where we spent almost $40,000 in training costs. SEFCA Construction, where we spent, the Construction Education Foundation of Georgia, which is SEFCA, we spent almost $150,000 on 30 participants with SEFCA. We know that there's lots of development happening around the city of Atlanta, and some of that development will be long-term for the city. And we want to make sure that the participants and residents in Atlanta have access to real training skills that will get them jobs that will have longevity. So we're proud to work with SEFCA. And again, they're one of our largest training providers where we spend a good bit of our funding dollars. And again, we have healthcare as well as transportation and logistics. You'll see that Catlaw Trucking is probably our next largest training provider where we spend a significant portion of our funding dollars. And so that is transportation and logistics. And they would also come out of that program with a CDL certification. So we're extremely excited about the number of participants we've been able to help over the course of 6 months. But, obviously looking to increase that number as we go into our last 2 quarters of the year. Next slide. This is just a brief second quarter update. In July, trainings and supportive services were up compared to other services, but in October, our workshop attendance was up, and that's just reflective of more people getting an understanding of how to better access the Workforce Atlanta services. We're still dealing with, making sure people know who we are, the services that we offer, and how to get access to those services. So to see an increase in attendance of our workshops is a positive result. Next slide, please. So for our business services, we're doing more job fairs, having more conversations with companies who, are hiring, are looking to hire in 2021, and are going to host with us virtual job fairs. So with these virtual job fairs, again, we'll share this with the participants that have either already graduated from programs or currently enrolled in programs, whether it's an ITA or a work experience. The goal is that we're increasing the opportunity to place our participants in full-time jobs. In December, we had Countalytics, so the one job fair, and currently we have Coca-Cola, who will be doing a job fair with us this Thursday. And we have several positions for the Coca-Cola job fair that we're really excited about. And we know that a lot of our participants who leverage WorkSource have the skills to complete the application along with the interview and secure these jobs at Coca-Cola. So we're looking for merchandisers, drivers, and technicians. And many of the merchandisers and drivers, will come from our CDL programs. So if you'll notice again, CAT Law, we've graduated and enrolled a lot of our participants in that program. So we know that this is a good fit for the participants. We know that Coca-Cola will be a good fit for them. Next slide. So my last slide is about Carlton Spalding, who is a participant who reached out to us early in January because he knew that his housing was going to expire. He wasn't a part of the homeless program because he wasn't homeless at the time. And so he reached out to us, to start the process early and be proactive in what is my plan once I lose my housing and once I'm no longer working. And so we were able to enroll him into a CDL program. He'll be graduating soon, and he started classes in August. And so the Coca-Cola, one of the Coca-Cola jobs would be great for Mr. Spalding. So it's just WorkSource. It's such a good feeling to hear and see these stories, to know that the training programs are actually working. Not only are they working, but we're working with companies within the city, and we're able to match these participants with the jobs. And so they also feel that WorkSource is working for them. And so while we have a lot of these success stories, we certainly want to see more of these success stories. We want to bring more of these success stories brought forth to you all. But we are excited for both Malik and Mr. Spalding to have completed our programs and will be successful after completing our programs. We don't have any updates on our performance because we're waiting for results from TCSG. Those have not been posted. They'll post sometime in January, and we can provide those numbers, but we don't have that. We are also currently still completing some of our financials, so we don't have a financial update today as well, but we can also provide that to you before the end of the year. And that completes my presentation.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Mr. Brown, you want to take us off again?
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And Ms. Taylor, thank you for everything that you've been doing to really make WorkSource Atlanta a staple in the city. I mean, we've endured a lot through this particular agency, and I really appreciate your commitment to turning this agency around. With that being said, I have just two really quick questions for you, really one question and one statement. The one question is, where are we on federal grants? Have we applied to any federal grants at this point? If so, which ones and how much? And are there any coming around? I mean, I know we're preparing to go into transition of a new administration, but I was wondering if there was anything lingering that we could apply for and or opening up that we could apply for.
Councilmember Brown, we don't have any current grants that we have applied for. We're continuing to get the formula funding that we receive every year from TCSG, and we'll get grant inquiries from the Department of Labor and other grant providers, but we have not applied for any grants outside of the current funding that we have, that we get every year, as well as the National Emergency Grant that we apply for over the summer.
Okay, sounds good. My statement, and I guess it would be an ask of you, you and I had some conversation over the weekend in regards to some tweets that were going through Twitter and statements that were being made about the $4 million that we had to give back, which was really before your time, and you came in and did an incredible job to try to save those monies. And unfortunately, it just didn't work. I think one of the things that I think is super important about these committee meetings is that it gives us an opportunity to really educate and inform the residents of kind of what's happening, what we're working on, what's not working, what is working, how we plan to move forward. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to address the public because I'm oftentimes defending the agency and specifically you on social media, because I think that the residents just kind of coincide all of the bad stuff that has happened before with all the good stuff that's happening now. And it's kind of like they don't believe us when we say things are going to get better, and that there's new leadership in place that's going to ensure that things get better. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to them, because I know a lot of them listen to this CDHS call every other week. We have it. And I think this would be a good time for you to kind of speak to them and just kind of tell them, just tell them, your piece in all of this.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown. I appreciate that. I would just say to the people of the city of Atlanta that this agency is really important to the city and its residents. And I know they know that, which is why they're so much engaged in what happens and what is shared oftentimes in public. But I would just say two things. One, I would invite them to come and sit in an orientation or a virtual orientation. It's a 20-minute orientation that will talk about exactly what we do, what our processes look like, and how they can help us share and spread the word of the services that we offer. Two, it will be really helpful for us to, at some point, share how grants work, right? And I think that that's probably not an easy feat. It's a very complicated process. But for us and working with national grants and local grants, when those grants are awarded, we're not actually given the money up front. We spend the money as we use it, and then we ask for reimbursements or drawdowns. So I think, to say that, to hear, and I think that it can be disappointing, and it's unfortunate for the city of Atlanta and her residents to hear that we've lost $4 million. It is that and not that it's better. We didn't totally use the full amount of the funding. And so, while that's disappointing, and, we believe that our residents, and the people that we serve, should have access to as much funding as possible. We'll continue to look for opportunities to identify new funding sources, look for new partners to identify city residents that need access to these dollars, and again, to continue to work with companies that are looking to support us and support the residents of the city to place them in jobs. And so again, it was such an unfortunate event that occurred to not have access or not to be able to utilize the remaining of the remaining dollars in that grant. We'll continue to work hard in spite of that. We'll continue to serve the people in spite of that. We'll continue to serve the people because, you know, we do have access to other resources and we want to make all of those resources available to them. But more importantly, please just go and come and be a part of our orientation, hear what we do and share what we do so that we can help more people and we can spend more money. And
that was amazing. Yeah, that was amazing, Ms. Taylor, and thank you for doing that. I appreciate you. Mr. Chair, I am done. I will yield back to you and my colleagues.
Thanks, sir. Ms. Shepherd.
Ms. Taylor, good evening. Good afternoon, rather.
Good afternoon.
Good to hear your report. I have a question. I was in a public safety committee meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we have a challenge with some of our 911 center in terms of we have a shortage of about 30 folks in 911 and hiring up. And their challenge was the same, keeping people in those fields. And one of the things I was asked by me by some community people is, who work towards Atlanta, do you ever interact with our departments or actually look at inside the HR department what departments may need folks, and then you correlate the people that come to you to the city? Does that ever happen?
So there are times when we may hear of a position in the city of Atlanta, or we'll work with HR about positions that our participants may qualify for. We even talk to individual departments ourselves without even going through HR, just to see what they might have in the pipeline. And oftentimes there will be opportunities for us to provide a work experience to certain departments. But so we have engaged in the past, and we will share any positions that are available. We share that with our participants. We are in the process now of starting to build out our email platform where we send regular communications to our participants who want to participate. So who want to have access to the communication that we'll start to send out in 2021. So I can tell you that I am not aware of the need for 911 employees, but I would
911 department. And my committee, there was saying it's about 30 positions, and would love. I just think that it's crazy for us that, you know, we all are one entity, and we're missing a big opportunity in terms of there's a lot of jobs in the city that, you know, I know we have a freezing hire right now, but 911 are essential operators, and so I mean essential workers, and so and there are people out there looking for jobs, and so I'm just saying that some type of way, on a consistent basis, I believe that you all should be continuously working together to determine what is needed in that whole area, in that field, so that we can go out and reach out to our folks that way also. That's what I want to know.
No, we can do a virtual job fair with that department. So I'll have someone on my team to reach out to see if we can do a virtual job fair and to understand what the skill set is, what's needed, and the job description. And so we can work on that.
All right. Thank you. That's all.
And I'll let you know when that's confirmed.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. That concludes the list of folks who are lined up to ask questions or comments. So thank you very much to you and your team for all that you're doing.
Thank you.
Sure thing. All right. Next up, team, we have got our 3 items on the consent agenda. Ms. Polidini.
Mr. Chair, one moment. Item number 5, 20-0-1792, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to adopt a third-party agency inspection manual pursuant to OCGA Section 8-2-26G to establish pre-qualification standards for third-party inspectors doing business in the City of Atlanta and to establish guidelines for administering and processing the third-party inspection program and for other purposes. Item number 6, 20-0-1793, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee amending the FY 2021 budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations the amount of $298,808.00, increasing the budget amount authorized by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the City of Atlanta Section 8 Moderate Rehabilitation Program for the Venera Village Apartments and for other purposes. And item number 7, 20-0-1794, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee amending the FY 2021 budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations the amount of $168,121.00, increasing the budget amount authorized by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the City of Atlanta Section 8 Moderate Rehabilitation Program for the Washington Street Apartments, LLC, and for other purposes.
Thank you very much. All right, colleagues, as we discussed at the beginning of the meeting, we are going to jump to item number 15, which, Ms. Fuladini, if you will read that. And do we need to bring a substitute forward first?
Yes, Mr. Chair. There's a substitute which has been passed out, which makes changes throughout the legislation, updates the caption, attaches the housing impact statement, and exhibits A, B, and C.
All right. I'll make a motion to bring forward the substitute. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown. Please open that vote.
The vote is open.
Yeah. Mr. Faruqi? Mr. Faruqi?
Sorry about that. Yep.
No, that's okay. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is before us. All right. I'm excited to have this conversation. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. You need to read the caption first. Go for it.
An ordinance by Councilmember Carla Smith as substituted by Community Development and Human Services Committee to ratify Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms' executive order directing the Chief Operating Officer and the Chief Financial Officer to take any actions necessary to request the issuance of the Urban Residential Finance Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, of its taxable drawdown revenue bonds, Series 2021, in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $50 million, and the authorization and pre-validation by the Finance Authority of additional revenue bonds in the aggregate amount not to exceed $100 million of long-term bonds to refinance the Series 2021 drawdown bonds at maturity or earlier redemption, and is further authorized by the City of Atlanta to finance additional elements of the Housing Opportunity Program within the parameters established herein for the purpose of assisting Atlanta Housing Opportunity, Inc., a Georgia nonprofit corporation and public body corporate and politic and financing on behalf of the city, the program known as the Housing Opportunity Program, related to enabling certain eligible single-family and multifamily residential housing projects within the city, and to provide for land assemblage for such purposes, to authorize the mayor to execute, deliver, and perform a second amended and restated intergovernmental housing cooperation agreement with the Housing Cooperation to authorize acknowledgement of service and the filing of an answer on behalf of the city in validation proceedings to be brought in validating Series 2021 drawdown bonds and pre-validating the additional bonds, to authorize the mayor to acknowledge and to agree to a continuing covenant agreement in connection with the sale of the Series 2021 drawdown bonds, to authorize certain related actions in all connection with the Housing Opportunity Program financed through the Finance Authority's issuance of the Series 2021 drawdown bonds, and authorization and pre-validation of the additional bonds, and for other purposes.
All right, colleagues, we have legislation in front of us authorizing and pre-validating $100 million in long-term bonds and issuing $50 million in drawdown bonds. Paper sponsored by Ms. Smith. So why don't you get us started, Councilmember Smith, and then we are going to hear from the CFO, or the Deputy CFO, and we also have folks on the line from Invest Atlanta. But Councilmember Smith, kick us off.
Thank you. Perfect. I'm glad everyone's here. If y'all will recall, back in the spring, it was actually before COVID, we started working on a 100, which turned into a $200 million affordable housing bond. And I'm just going to say real quickly that I've always heard all my life that there's two truths in life. One is you pay taxes, the other is you die. And I really believe that there is a third truth. I believe that all of us live where we can afford to live. And the way that Atlanta is now, at one time, Atlanta had some parts of town that were affordable for what I'm going to call regular people, people that just have regular jobs that we may not make a lot of money, but we can still afford to live in Atlanta. And that is changing. And I am happy that we are to this point because back in the spring, we decided to let it go because the future was so uncertain and we just didn't feel like we could take on the debt service of an affordable housing bond. But as all of you know, because I think everyone has been looking for some kind of solution for us to at least move this paper, or really the affordable housing component of the paper, we've got to push it down the road, because if we don't, there is not going to be any affordable housing in the city of Atlanta. So anyway, we have to credit the administration and Mr. Council, the Chief Financial Officer, for coming up with this. And I know that he has a huge team of people that he works with, but I think this is a great solution. I'm proud to be the sponsor of this. And what it is it's a $50 million drawdown bond. So right now what we're looking at, it is for 100, but for right now what we're looking at is to pull down $50 million. And over the next 2 to 3 years, we can pull money down off of this. So it's called a drawdown bond. And it's where we're drawing money off of the bond. And so it's not that we have to do the debt service for the bond. So what we will be doing now is paying interest only. So the way I understand it, for the first year, no matter what happens, is even if we are really successful and spend a whole lot of money, we will not pay more than $350,000 in the first year. For the second year, again, looking at us being successful and building multifamily, some single family, some of our plan, we will not pay more than $500,000 on the second year. And that is versus what we would have had to absorb, which is 6.7 or 13 million on the 200,000. So the finance department feels like that they can build this money into the budget, so we need to watch at the budget and make sure that we've put this, but it's really not that much. It's not like 6.7 million that we're building into the budget. We're only building for this next year no more than 350,000, and it will never be more than 475,000 a year. And the economists are saying that we're going to get back to our previous economy in approximately, and this is forecasted if things go as they're going now, in 1.5 years. So at that point, we can take another look at this, and then maybe we can go back to our original paper. But for now, I really want to get this paper passed, and this way we can do, it's a short term for our issuing our big housing bond paper over the next 2 to 3 years, but this carries us down the road, and we've got to do it. We just have to do it. And like I said, I'm really proud to be bringing this paper, and I just got a text from Michael. He wants to add his name. Anyone else that wants to add your name, please feel free, because I really believe that this is a good solution, and it's a great way to end 2020.
All right, thank you for that. Mr. Gaffney or Mr. Council, are one of you on the line, and can you walk us through the finance portion of this piece that has changed since the last time we discussed this in March?
So this is CFO Council. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. We need to unmute Mr. Gaffney's line. He's going to provide a few more details here. But just to reinforce what the council member said, from the time that the decision was made that the city could not financially support this, there were several efforts that was underway to see how we could actually do this. And the city is still in a position, again, not in a fiscal posture to where we can commit to a 20-year obligation, but as well as, to accommodate a debt service of $6.7 million. But as Ms. Mitch said, there are positive signs that we're starting to see. Okay, one being the vaccine, the other being a new administration, but things that are starting to encourage the economists about which way the economy is actually headed. And Mr. Gaffney will actually speak to that specifically. But at this point in time, we are offering up this facility, as an interim solution. But it does allow affordability, which was the driver for us, but it also allows a jump start, and I think in a big way, because it covers half of the proposed $100 million that was intended to be term bonds. And that puts us in a position to where when the economy opens back up, we'll be able to issue the $100 million, take out this $50 million, and use the remaining 50 for the remainder of the projects that were brought forward as part of the $100 million housing opportunity bonds. And so, as you mentioned, we do have with us, and who's joining us today, is several members from Invest Atlanta. If there's any questions from the programmatic perspective, they are here to actually answer those questions and anything that's related to that. And so with that, John, are you unmuted?
I am, I believe. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Well, good afternoon, council members. I must say, I feel like my thunder's been stolen, so I'm going to attempt to describe this as well as Councilmember Smith did. I may not succeed, but she did great. And as Roosevelt mentioned, what we're putting forth here is really a short-term financing solution that we think works really well to advance the housing agenda. And the commitment to affordable housing remains at $100 million, but this lets us over the next 2 to 3 years really jumpstart that work at an affordable price. And so if you notice on the slide, we've denoted 3 different levels. These are just really the beginning, middle, end. The cost to the city is really just 2 components. It's an undrawn fee for the bank providing the service, and then interest costs for as we draw down the funds. You can see at the left side, if we don't draw anything down, it would cost $175,000 a year. In the middle, half drawn, $350,000, and the most we'll pay is $525,000 at that annually on a fully drawn amount. So we do think that with the FY21 budget that we're currently in, we can easily absorb what we think will be maybe $100,000 at most in those costs. And then, of course, in FY22, you guys will make sure and approve an appropriate amount in the budget in FY22 to cover this cost, which we do believe is reasonable. And then finally, when the timing is right, this facility has currently got a 2-year term with 3 annual renewals if we need them. But when the time is right, we'll go back to the market and issue the originally contemplated $100 million housing opportunity bond, which will then pay off this facility and then allocate the remainder to the affordable housing plan. I'll stop there if there's any questions, and otherwise we can go on to the next slide, which is the economic outlook.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and touch on slides 3 and 4, and then we can take questions from everybody.
Sure. Okay, next slide, please. So if you recall, in April of this year, we were in the middle of developing our budget and we enlisted some outside help from Deloitte to help us kind of frame what the future might hold because of this pandemic. And so they came up with 3 scenarios, which were anchored in large part by the macroeconomic sort of indicators that you typically hear about. So gross domestic product, consumer spending, and unemployment rate. They also factored in new housing starts. So what we ended up with was 3 different scenarios. All of the scenarios showed pretty steep declines for the past fiscal year, and 2 of the 3 showed further declines in this current fiscal year, 21. But most importantly, all 3 scenarios, which were anchored primarily around how long the recession, how long the shutdown would last. It was 4 months, 6 months, 9 months. But all 3 of those scenarios showed a V-shaped recovery in FY22, which is the budget year we're heading into. As we look at the cities, and then we can go to the next slide. So we've kind of gone back and asked for a little bit more current data as we've got a few more months under our belt, halfway through December here. And what we've found is that the Goldman Sachs folks who were actually a part of the study we did in April, as well as the in-house Deloitte economists, they're both predicting better recovery in calendar year 2021 than they did back in April. So, for example, GDP growth, Goldman's now predicting about a 5.3% increase over 2020, and then another 3.8% in 2021. Same thing for consumer spending. Deloitte's estimates are now that it's going to be about a 3.4% increase in 2021, which is much higher than they had previously estimated. And then finally, unemployment is also looking better. We think there may be further improvements in unemployment potentially as we see more stimulus coming out of Washington. And I think the point we're trying to make is that we're not back to normal. We continue to have to monitor the budget. We'll have to monitor it this year. We'll obviously have to be very thoughtful about FY22 because even though these statistics are encouraging in the short run, we're still monitoring very closely how quickly we can get back to, seeing normal levels of business travel, convention, tourism, and entertainment before we feel like we'll be fully out of the woods. But what this does let us know is that in the next 2 to 3 years, we feel very confident that we will be able to go back to the bond market and issue term bonds to take out this facility. So I'll stop there and answer any questions you may have.
All right. Thank you very much. Colleagues, I don't see anybody lined up to speak. There we go. Mr. Bond.
And I'll speak.
Yeah. All right. Well, we start with Mr. Bond, and then we'll go to Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Council, Mr. Gaffney, for your presentation, and thank you for acknowledging my request to be added, Councilmember Smith. I just wanted to give you all high praise for this brilliant solution to this problem. I think it is just absolutely tremendous, and I can't say enough good things about it because even as I was being briefed yesterday prior to the meeting, I was just floored at how creative this is and how it is a ready solution to what we're facing, not only with the crisis in housing that we've been experiencing over the last few years, but, you know, with it being compounded by the pandemic, I just can't say enough of good things about this. Can't say enough good things about yourselves and the related teams within the finance department and Invest Atlanta. So I'm really, really excited about this solution, and hopefully, you know, after we're through this, this type of financing could be applied to some of the others' needs in the city. So just very, very excited, and just high compliments to you all.
Thank you. Can I talk now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to amend to add Mr. Bond's name, Mr. Westmoreland's name. Who else? Anyone else?
Councilmember Brown's name.
Perfect.
Faruqi.
Yay.
Shepard.
Woohoo! I'm getting really happy here.
Don't we have a substitute?
Yes, and Miss Archibong's amendment is in that substitute. Where is she?
She's hosting the president-elect. Mr. Brown, the substitute is before us.
I am so sorry. I've been trapped.
That's all right.
Chair.
All right.
That's okay.
Okay.
I'll second mission.
Thank you. We can add more people as this keeps moving along. Where's Ms. Puladini opening the vote?
One moment, please.
Thank you.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Mr. Brown?
I am a yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, sir.
The vote is closed.
All right, 6 yeas, 0 nays. The
Motion
item,
to approve as amended, please.
okay, the item is amended. There's a motion to approve as amended by Smith, which I will second. Are there any other questions or comments?
Hey, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I apologize. So I got disconnected when the substitute was brought forward. I didn't get to hear. I didn't get to hear the final amendment on the substitute. I apologize.
It was already in the substitute, which we brought forward.
Yeah. So Miss Archibong notified all of us last night that she wanted to make an amendment to require that Invest Atlanta come back to this committee in February and make a presentation on the guidelines. One second, and I'll read it to you so we can just have it on the record. Invest Atlanta is required to provide a report to the Community Development Human Service Committee outlining the program guidelines by February 2021. And so this paper would move out of committee today and head to FEC tomorrow and to full council on January 4th, pending approval tomorrow. And then Invest Atlanta will have to come back to this committee in February to provide an overview on the guidelines that are used in each of the categories as it relates to these dollars being used in the future.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that.
No problem. All right. If there are no other questions or comments, the vote is open. How would you like to vote, Mr. Brown?
I am a yes.
Thank you, sir. Six yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable as amended on substitute. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Back to item number 8.
One moment, please. Item number 8, 20-0-1755, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor, her designee, to permanently close the portion of George Street Southeast between Martin Luther King Jr. Drive Southeast and Bigger Street Southeast, to transfer the permanently closed portion of George Street Southeast, Atlanta, Georgia, from the purview of the Department of Public Works to the purview of the Department of Parks and Recreation in connection with the Historic Oakland Foundation Visitor Center project and Memorial Drive Greenway project and for other purposes.
There are no questions or comments. I will make a motion to approve.
Second, Brown.
Got a motion by Westmoreland, a second by Brown. Please open that vote.
The vote is open. Vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. And that this. Do we need to make a motion to refer?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
I'll make a motion to refer to the Transportation Committee. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown. Please open that vote.
The vote is opened. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Next item.
Items 9 and 10 are CDP items for the first quarter CDP public hearing next year. They'll need to be amended and held to attach the executive summaries and plans. Would the committee like to take these as a block?
Yes, please.
Item number 9, 20-0-1771, CDP-20-044, an ordinance by Councilmember Cleta Winslow to adopt Sub-Area 1 Master Plan, the Atlanta Beltline, Inc., Master Plan Update Southwest Study Group, to amend the 2016 Comprehensive Development Plan by incorporating by reference said plan and for the purposes NPU's I, S, T, and V, Council Districts 4, 10, 11, and 12. And item number 10, 20-0-1772, CDP-20-045, an ordinance by Councilmember Joyce M. Shepherd to adopt Atlanta Beltline Sub-Area 2 Master Plan, the Atlanta Beltline Sub-Area 2 Master Plan Update, to amend the 2016 Comprehensive Development Plan by incorporating by reference said plan and for the purposes NPU, S, V, X, and Y, Council Districts 1 and 12.
I'll make a motion to amend now or amend later?
Amend now, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I'll make a motion to amend.
Second, Shepherd.
The vote is open.
I'm a yes, Mr. Chair.
Appreciate it. Mr. Faroki? Has voted. Can we add Mr. There we go. Awesome.
The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is amended, right?
Correct.
Okay. And now I'll make a motion to hold both items. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown. Please open that vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Mr. Faroki, how'd you like to vote? All right, let's go ahead and close that.
The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Those two items are held. Next item.
Next item is number 11, 20-0-1773, an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet to extend the contractual agreement with Positive Impact Health Centers, a 2018 housing opportunities for persons with AIDS sponsors, approved by ordinance 20-0-1414, for the purpose of continuing to provide facility-based housing, permanent housing placement, tenant-based rental assistance, special needs housing, short-term rent mortgage, utility assistance, emergency lodging, and recuperative care to HIV/AIDS affected individuals and or families, to ratify prior services and for other purposes. There's an amendment in your packet which attaches attachment A and adds the extension date to section 1.
Motion to amend. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6-0. That item is amended. If there are no questions or comments, I will make a motion to adopt as amended.
Second, Brown.
Approved.
The vote is open. Vote is closed.
6-0. That item is favorable as amended. Next item.
Item number 12, 20-1774. There is a substitute in your packet which changes the caption, adds whereas clauses, and attaches attachments 1 through 3. Would the committee like to bring the substitute forward before I read in the caption?
I will make that motion. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6-0. That substitute is before us. Yep.
Okay. An ordinance by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone, as substituted by Community Development Human Services Committee, amending 20-0-1652 by correcting the anticipation and appropriations of the Community Development Fund budget in the amount of $3,703,601.00, and to accept additional award made available to the city through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the protection of the general public during the health crisis, and to amend the Community Development Fund budget by anticipating and appropriating $2,800,000.00, and authorizing the mayor or designee on behalf of the city of Atlanta, and to substantially amend the city's 2020 to 2024 consolidated plan for the purpose, and to fund various projects, and entering into agreements with project sponsors to provide emergency support to vulnerable populations during the COVID-19 pandemic using funds and for other purposes.
Thank you. Ms. Franklin, are you here? And if so, could you walk us through this piece of legislation, please?
Good afternoon, Chair, President, and members. Monique Franklin on behalf of the Department of Grants and Community Development. The legislation before you today is just to amend the allocation of additional CARES funding we received a few months back, where we received $3.8 million, and now we're ready to actually allocate this to 2 project sponsors to help us prepare, prevent, and respond to the coronavirus, and preventing and providing support services to the city of Atlanta residents to prevent them from becoming homeless, due to some other funds running out.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? All right. I will make a motion, a favorable motion on condition of the completion of a 5-day public comment period and public hearing at our January 4th full council meeting.
Second, Brown.
Vote is open.
Yeah.
The vote is closed.
All right. That item is favorable on substitute on condition. Next item.
Item number 13, 20-0-1775. There's an amendment in your packet which adds the contract extension date of March 31st, 2020 throughout the legislation, and it also changes the caption. Would the committee like to amend the paper first, and then I'll read in the amended caption?
Yes, ma'am. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6-0, that item is amended. If there are no questions or comments, I will make a motion to approve as amended.
Mr. Chairman, if I may raise a question.
Yep.
Okay. An ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet as amended by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizes the mayor or her designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into Amendment Number 1, EAS 1210051, Programs to Care for Homeless Populations with Partners for Home, Inc., to extend the term through March 31st, 2021, to add funding for continued operational support for short-term emergency lodging through the Community Development Block Grant funded by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in an amount not to exceed $1,200,000.00 retroactively effective December 31, 2020, and for other purposes.
All right. I will make a motion now with a second from Brown.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
All right. 6-0, that item is favorable as amended. Next item.
Item number 14, 20-0-1778, an ordinance by Councilmember Carla Smith authorizing the mayor or her designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into Amendment Number 3, AAS 12004848, temporary housing for high-risk unsheltered people experiencing homelessness due to the COVID-19 pandemic with Pre-Hospitality LLC to add funding for continued emergency housing through the Community Development Block Grant funded by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in an amount not to exceed $1,600,000.00 retroactively effective December 31, 2020, and for other purposes.
Yes, Ms. Smith.
This is this is our third paper for to shelter the homeless in the hotels. So we've talked about this numerous times. I'm just going to make a motion to approve.
I will second that. Any other questions or comments? All right. Please open that vote.
Vote is open.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am. Or excuse me. Yes, sir.
I'm still here,
I'll take that, too. I'm a yes.
We will record you as such.
Vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Item 16.
Number 16, 20-0-1782, an ordinance by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone to ratify Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms' executive order calling on the Atlanta Housing Authority, Atlanta Beltline, Inc., Fulton County, City of Atlanta Land Bank Authority, Invest Atlanta, Partners for Home, and the City of Atlanta's Department of Grants and Community Development to institute a temporary moratorium on residential evictions and filings, to declare that this moratorium shall remain in effect through March 31st, 2021, and for other purposes.
Any questions or comments? All right. I will make a motion to approve.
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. On to resolutions.
Item number 17, 20-R-4752, a resolution by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute a services agreement with the PATH Foundation for the purpose of providing support to the Department of Parks and Recreation through coordination of volunteer support, fundraising, project management, maintenance, and other services and programs throughout the City of Atlanta, with the term commencing upon execution of the agreement for a term of 5 years with 2 one-year renewal options and for other purposes.
There's a recommendation from the department to hold. I will make that motion. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown.
The vote is open. Vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is held. Next two items.
Item number 18, 20-R-4753, a resolution by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor, her designee, on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into a housing assistance payments contract with 8 Venera LLC through December 31st, 2021, for an amount not to exceed $270,036.00 for the purpose of paying rental subsidies on 28 units for low-income families at the Venera Village Apartments pursuant to the Section 8 Moderate Rehabilitation Program sponsored by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to be charged to and paid from accounts listed below and for other purposes. And item number 19, 20-R-4754, a resolution by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor, her designee, on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into a housing assistance payments contract with Washington Street Apartments, LLC, through December 31st, 2021, for an amount not to exceed $150,680.00 for the purpose of paying rental subsidies for 16 units for low-income families at Washington Street Apartments pursuant to the Section 8 Moderate Rehabilitation Program sponsored by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to be charged to and paid from accounts listed below and for other purposes.
I'll make a motion to hold. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6-0, that item is held. On to held items. We have two. The first is item number 27.
20-0-1700, CDP-20-026, a substitute ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 993, 997, 1003, and 1007 Boulevard Southeast from the low-density residential land use designation to the medium-density residential land use designation and for the purposes V-20-049 NPUW, Council District 1.
This is fine. I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Smith, which I will second. Please open that vote.
The vote is open.
I'm a yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Next item.
Item number 30, 20-0-1704, CDP-20-033, a substitute ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 74, 84, 88, 92, 103, and 105 Flat Shoals Road Southeast, 948 Kirkwood Avenue Southeast, and 107, 111, 117, 121, 145, 151, and 157 Gibson Street Southeast from the single-family residential land use designation to the mixed-use medium-density land use designation, and 927 Wiley Street Southeast, 95 Flat Shoals Road Southeast, 930, 933, 934, 943, 946, 948, 949, and 953 Kirkwood Avenue Southeast, 146 Holtzclaw Southeast, 941, 945, 949, and 951 Manigault Street Southeast from the industrial land use designation to the mixed-use medium-density land use designation and for the purposes C-20-061 NPUN Council District 5.
In her absence, but after a conversation with her, I will make a motion for Councilman Archibong to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. That concludes our item, unless there are our final item on the agenda, unless there are any other items. Before we adjourn, since this is our last meeting of the year, a couple of comments. One, I want to thank Councilmember Farokhi for his 3 years of service on this committee. He will be leaving us at the end of the year to venture over into the wild, wild west of the zoning committee, where he will be our new chair. And so, Mr. Farokhi, I see you lined up to speak. Go for it.
Well, that was just very kind of you to note. I will, for the sake of accuracy and clarity, I served for 1 year on this committee, then was off for a year, then was back on this year. So two of the first 2 years I've been on this committee, but this is the first year, obviously, with your chairmanship, and I just want to commend you for the thoroughness with which you've led this committee, and I think that's reflected in the goals you helped articulate at the beginning of the year, which were not only ambitious, they were, I think, relevant to the needs of the city, and I commend you and the rest of the committee for working toward as many of those as we could this year, and it was an honor to serve with everyone, and look forward to serving next year with everyone on a range of other committees. But thank you very much for your leadership.
No, thank you. We will be rejoined by Councilmember Hillis, who, I'll stop trying to speak with authority, was either on this committee for 1 or 2 years, but I know he's been here before, and I know he is looking forward to coming back. And at the moment, he is actually at an announcement with the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The old Bowen home site has been awarded a Choice Neighborhood Planning grant. And so I know that we're all looking forward to seeing what will come from that work in the months and years ahead. And then I wanted to say a special thank you to Julia and Wasona for your tireless work in making each of these committee meetings run incredibly smoothly over the last year. So thank you to both of you for the amendments and substitutes and presentations and everything. To Damon for the 19,000 hours of tennis public comment that we heard over the course of 2020. Looking forward to working with all of you again in the new year with an updated list of goals. You will see in your packet the progress that we made on many of our goals, and then the work that remains on a number of other important issues as we move into a new calendar year. So that is all from me. If there are no other comments from anyone else, I will entertain Ms. Smith's motion. Before your motion, Mr. Bond and then Mr. Brown.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just also want to compliment you on the way that you've acquitted yourself as a leader of this committee over this challenging and unprecedented year. It has been a pleasure to serve on this committee, and I look forward to serving next year with the selected members. And just want to thank the staff of our committee and, of course, the city staff that participate. I just want to wish everyone a very happy and safe holiday season. Happy New Year as well.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank you for your leadership. As our colleagues have stated, you've done an incredible job leading this committee to make Atlanta a more equitable city and a more inclusive city. And I am greatly appreciative for everything you have done to move this forward. And to my colleagues, it has been an honor and a privilege to serve alongside you. I think we have done some incredible things this year, and I look forward to the even more incredible things we do next year. I'm not sure if I'll make it to the transportation meeting tomorrow, but if not, I wish everyone an amazing, amazing holiday and New Year, and hopefully we'll all be able to see each other soon.
Thank you very much. I need to turn over my piece of paper. And in forgetting to do that, there were 3 more names that I wanted to say. Theo, our council staff director, Zena, our comms director, and Talia, our communications team member. Thank you to the 3 of you as well. And with that, I will entertain your motion, Ms. Smith.
For the last time this year, and it has been a great year, you've done a great job, Mr. Chair. Motion to adjourn.
On unanimous consent of all members present, we stand adjourned. See you guys on January 12th.
Okay. Happy holidays.
Good.